was faced to defend to his judgments in selecting both plays and personnel. On this night, both would be validated, and it wouldn't take long. Running their first play of the night from their own 9, the ball would be placed safely in the hands of wide receiver Devery Henderson, as Reggie Bush so tragically couldn't 8 days before. The result was a 15-yard gain. Sean Payton instant messaging his critics. This is how we play, aggressively, without fear of the consequences. 3 plays later, with no Reggie Bush, the Saints were running their fullback on 3rd and 1 from their own 33 for no gain. 1 play later, from their own 33 on 4th and 1, they were sneaking their quarterback for no gain. Falcon football. Early ammunition provided for the coach's critics to reload. 4 plays later, the Falcons choose to punt on 4th and 1, failing to get even a field goal opportunity from the Saints' failed gamble. The Falcons are turned back. The tide against them would not be for the rest of the game. Could Payton manufacture any semblance of a running game in Bush's absence? Aaron Stecker's 100 yards and Pierre Thomas's limited contributions result in nearly a 5-yard per carry average. Payton had one last critic to rebuke, and that was one of his former players. Joe Horn had assailed Payton in Atlanta's Sunday paper, accusing him of treating players like dirt under his feet. He said he felt betrayed by his former coach and by Saints fans who booed him as a Falcon back in New Orleans on October 21st. He implied that the Saints' struggles this season were a result of unchecked power and ego. Said Horn, quoting now, "I'm talking about that genius they hired in New Orleans," end of quote. Payton guardedly entered the fray in his post-game news conference, noting that he felt David Patton was more reliable on the field, and though he didn't say it, in the locker room than Horn. Patton had just completed a career night, 9 catches, 122 yards, a 13.6-yard average, including a 25-yard touchdown to open the scoring. What were Horn's numbers, Payton asked rhetorically. 2 catches for 8 yards, a long of 5. No touchdowns for the Falcons' 7th leading receiver with a 4-year, $19 million contract. No touchdowns at all as a Falcon. 3 games missed due to a hamstring injury. With his production falling far short of his compensation, Horn in Atlanta is now promoting his value as a mentor in the locker room to the young Falcon receivers. That was the last thing Payton wanted in New Orleans. The Joe Horn self-promoting, look-at-me attitude would say to Marcus Colston or Robert Meacham, as it was already saying to Dante Stallworth, that this is how a star receiver in the NFL comports himself. The coach had the last word this night, maybe the final one if the Falcons don't bring Horn back. The weeks are all too long when you lose, and last week was longer than most. They're all too short when you win, and this week will be shorter than most. Last night's win can't be savored lengthily due to the schedule, but it can be savored intensely due to the week-long depression it dissipated, the optimism it elevated, the circumstances under which it was authored, and the critics who were silenced, if only for a game. And next week's a very important one.
And they needed to have the execution that they had last night, and really all their games on the road at the Dome for a change.
Yes. Definitely, because they've not been a good Dome team. Let me tell you one thing. What would have happened on that handoff to Devery Henderson if he had fumbled instead of taking it for 15 yards on the first play from scrimmage? People would be stringing Sean Payton up today from the Crescent City Connection. The plays are only the right ones if they work.
That's right.
Okay.
6 LA